I don't want to say hi to there, partner. But yes, I know it already started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Seen Not Heard by LitaCakes. Nobody can tell me otherwise. I'm sorry. Sorry if my voice seems a little off. I don't know. My throat's just been hurting. I think I probably have strep sick. I'll probably get strep. Woo! Because one of my friends had it. So, and then oh yeah, and since this is chapter 5, I think every 5 chapters I'm gonna take a break and then read a one shot and then so on and so forth. I might just do it every 10, but for now, because next week's, not next week, but next week, the weeks I normally post every other. There might be one next week, there might not be, but it's normally on Wednesdays. So there might be a video, a one shot, and then afterwards the video might be a Q&A. And there is please post questions in the community tab. There's already a thing. And yeah, and I'll hopefully respond to the those questions in that video. So, without some further ado, yes, chapter 5 of Seen Not Heard, read to you by ADHD underscore God. And, yep, let's get on to it. Bump. Okay, chapter 5. You are not alone, and you need help. Trigger warnings. I was gonna say this before I start reading the actual fic. Trigger warnings. There is conversations of abuse. He does have a small panic attack and a PTSD attack. So, if any of that triggers you, how are you still here? Why are you still here? um, dibba. Yep. Okay. The station was pretty quiet when they walked in. Izuku was half hiding behind Shota. It worked, only if Izuku was like only if Izuku was half his height. Shota hadn't made a single comment about Izuku hanging onto his suit the whole walk back to the station. Izuku was thankful for that. He'd broken down enough today. He didn't think he could handle his hero protesting, pointing out his weakness right now. But Izuku had a feeling Shota would never do that. Tsukashi walked in the office as they just walked out of the office as they arrived, clearly aiming towards the coffee machine. Eraser. I wasn't expecting you back. A few hours. What happened? Shota looked down at Izuku beneath him, giving what Izuku translated as an encouraging look. Izuku frowned beneath his mask, not liking that one bit. Be brave. Shota called him brave. He could do this. Izuku peeked out from behind Shota and waved. He's still in his vigilante gear, though. Though. So Tsukashi might not recognize him. Izuku was wearing a dark black cargo pants with green pocket accents, dark gray hoodie with its hood up, the green face mask, and the black neck sleeve. He had dark green fingerless gloves on and matching the dark green combat boots as well. When Izuku glanced up briefly, he noted the shocked look on Tsukashi's face. You're, 1 second. You can take him to the investigation room, Eraser. Can you take him to the investigation room, Eraser? Sakashi scrambled back to his office to grab his file and notebook. Oh, and also a coffee on the way. It was what might be two more from grabbing with mugs. And also a coffee, as well as what would be two ways great from grabbing two mugs. Izuku realized it was about 11 in the evening. Late, but not too late. Far too early for either of them to finish up their patrols. But Izuku supposed tonight was his last patrol. He felt bad he didn't end up catching any criminals. Instead, he broke down in Shota's arms. Shota let him back behind in the corner, but stopped before they went too far. Izuku, I need your weapons. Izuku tilted his head and patted himself down. He didn't have anything on his person, did he? Scrunching his face up, feeling kind of brain dead from everything that happened this evening. Where's your bat? Shota asked, just as Sukashi came over and offered them both coffee mugs. Oh, his bat, right. He was forgetting. Izuku reached into his pocket and pulled out a metal disc, offering it to Shota with all the emotion rolling on his head. He forgot the thing was packed away in his pocket. Izuku, this isn't a baseball bat. Were you trying to hide it? We'll need it for evidence. Izuku sighed and took the disc back, tapping it twice on the top and then tossing it upwards. A bat sprang into life as Izuku wrapped his hands around the handle. He flipped it a few times and offered it to Shota, with the heavy end down. What the hell? Sukashi choked on his coffee. Where did that teenager get tech like this? That's an excellent question, Suke. Shota irked a brow at Izuku. Izuku had the destined look of solitude. I'm kind of friends with an inventor. She's like going to be top support gear in a few years when she graduates high school. She also made me some guns, trank guns. That's it, not real ones. She's currently upgrading those. This is last year's bat model. This year's is also almost ready. Shota sighed as if everything Izuku just said was exhausting him. He took the offered coffee mug and literally chugged half of it, while Sukashi and Izuku stared wide-eyed. At him. That's... What did he say? Sukashi finally asked, but Izuku bit his lower lip, keeping him from giggling. He has a support gear inventor in his pockets. Sounds like a girl his age. That is apparently last year's model, and she's working on a new version as well, and as well as upgrading tranquilizer guns. The detective glanced back at Izuku with a mixture of worry and wonder. I'm going to need... No! Izuku cut off Shota. No, she has not done anything wrong. She does not know what I do. She just invents. I won't risk her career. She is not involved. That was sort of a lie. May figured it out, but Izuku kept her a bit distracted from this whole thing, as far as he could, at least. Distance from this whole thing, as far as he could, at least. Shut aside. Yet again. Fine, that girl gets off the hook, but she can't make you any more weapons. Ever again. Even legal ones. Clear? Clear. Izuku saluted. Shota rolled his eyes at the motion, but motioned them to follow him. Izuku took the extra coffee cup in Tsukashi's hands and followed the two heroes towards the interview room. At least this one was an interrogation room. It was cushy with couches and chairs and boxes of tissues. Oh, this is where they interviewed victims. Lonely. Izuku wasn't sure how he felt about that. When everyone was settled, Shota motioned for Shikashi to take over. Well, I can't use my quirk on him if he can't speak. My first question is, are you really mute? Izuku nodded and signed towards Shota, who translated. I was injured when I was 8. My father used his quirk on me and damaged my mouth, tongue, and throat. Forming words is very hard. I assume if I had ever gone to speech therapy, I could relearn. But right now, I can't. How long have you been a vigilante? We have records of the last couple years. Is that it? I've been doing what legally called vigilantism. Oh, what would be legally called vigilantism since I was 10. I've been training since I was 8. I only started actively patrolling and fighting when I was 12 or 13, though I'm almost 15 now. Tsukashi made some notes and went on. Please explain your quirk and how it helps you with your vigilante work. This is important to know so we can assess how to handle your case. Izuku blinked, staring blankly at the two men across from him. Had they really not figured it out yet? Had they believed he had a quirk this whole time? No. No one had mentioned his vigilante Kyoshi, the quirk having a quirk, and Izuku didn't spread any rumors about it either. But also never told Shota he never told Shota he had one, as Koichi the informant. Is he serious? Izuku signed to Shota. Very serious, Izuku. We need to know if you have a simple IQ quirk. It could mean the difference between patrol and jail time. If you have a combat quirk, then if you had a combat quirk. Izuku signed. They didn't decide. They didn't understand. They would never understand. Izuku, down at his hands, the scars that layered them, mostly from Hisashi poking him with heated fingers, from his fire from his fire gloves. They looked like cigarette burns. He had a few sharp scars where Inko lashed him, though most of those scars were across his back or the bottom of his feet. With shaking hands, Izuku signed his death warrant, literally and figuratively. I'm Quirkless. Sakashi wouldn't understand the weight of the world at that moment, since he couldn't read sign, but Shota could. Shota understood instantly. The man grabbed Sakashi by the collar and dragged him out of the room. Izuku knew it was over. He couldn't expect his hero to still want to protect him when he knew the truth. Of course, he'd be alone again. What had he ever believed? Why did he have to believe he was anything different? Hey, Shota called back into the room. The door almost shut. Izuku looked up enough to see Shota's chest. I don't care what your quirk status is, but I need to discuss this with Sakashi. Just give me a moment. Izuku stared at the door as Shota closed it. He didn't care, but everybody cared. Quirkless quirks were all that mattered. Izuku scurried out of the chair and pressed his ear to the door, starting to hear the conversation outside. It wasn't hard. Actually, they were speaking quite pretty loud. Suka, that kid's quirkless. What? He's quirkless. It makes so much sense now. How he use why he uses a baseball bat, why he was abused, why he's on his own. This kid is been alone his whole life and hated his whole life. I might not get it entirely, but I was treated as a villain my whole life when I was a kid. I understand his pain slightly. Racer, do you know what this means, right? We can't let this kid go to court. They'll chew him out. They'll chew him out and spit him right back out. They'll chew him up and spit him out. He'll he'll just continue to be abused in the system over and over. I know. I already planned to take him home with me regardless of his vigilante case, but now, Suka, can you let this go? Can he be forgiven? Can you forget he was ever here? If we can convince him to give up being a vigilante for good? Yeah. I don't want to see him get eaten alive by a twisted government. We both want nothing more than to beat we know wants nothing more than to beat him into the ground. Alright. I need to call Zashi and Nezu. I think the rat will want this kid. Oh? If what we've seen of him is even half of what he's actually capable of, this kid could very well be the smartest thing next to Nezu. Yeah, not to mention he's already about my strength level. I think we both know that, likely from sneaking out and trying to avoid being hurt by the people who are surrounding and protecting him, or who are supposed to be protecting him. Izuku winced at the harsh truth. I know, but no more. We need to start a case against his parents, too. Believe me, after what I've seen, if I find the bastard who hurt this kid, you will have to stop me from putting a bullet in their head. That bad? Suka, Suka. The injury that made him mute? It's a burn scar on his face, in the shape of a fucking handprint. Eraser, I know. It was his parents' assault and put away I want his parents arrested and put away for good, even if I have to get my own hands bloody. My own knuckles bloody to do it. I don't care. This kid deserves justice. He'll get it, Eraser. Regardless, I'll get the paperwork started when you're done. Good. They both went their separate ways for minutes, likely to make phone calls. They likely had mentioned. So Izuku, like they had mentioned. So Izuku, likely to make phone calls they had mentioned. So Izuku kept his ears straining until he heard them walking back. He quickly pulled himself back into his chair when he heard two men coming back towards the in- interview room. When they came in, Izuku was staring at the floor in the position he had been when they left, processing that whole conversation that was very much not meant for his ears was a lot. They wanted to help him, even in private, when they thought Izuku couldn't hear them. They wanted to protect him. They wanted to get him justice for what the world did to him, what his own parents did to him. When Shota sat back down, Izuku practically tackled him into a hug, tears once more streaming down his face. Shota actually yelped in surprise, but quickly wrapped his arms around the smaller teen. Hey, what's wrong, Izu? Izuku wiped his eyes and shook his head, wishing with everything inside that he could speak. But no matter how hard he tried, Hisashi, the voice of Hisashi kept reminding him to shut up and be invisible. He couldn't push past the pain to speak, so after a moment, he signed, "Thank you. That's all, just thank you." The underground hero tilted his head. Sakashi shrugged, having no idea what it was about, so he just chose not to push on it. Neither man commented about Izuku sitting on Shota's lap now, and neither thought to move him out of it. Alright, so we have a proposal for you, Izuku. If you're willing to give up being a vigilante permanently, we won't be filing your case. That's all. The thing is, with you being quirkless, well, I don't need to explain how bad the legal system is. However, it's apparent, it's applying, it's apparent, we, but we can't have a 14 running around chasing crime. It's a dangerous, and A, it's dangerous, B, it's illegal. So, with this agreement, you will go under Shota's guardianship. So, and whatever else he wants to offer, I think he spoke with Nezu. Izuku was curious about that. Neither man had been gone that long. Phone calls couldn't have lasted more than a couple minutes each. Had that been enough time to really win the famous Principal Nezu over to Izuku's side? Shota sat up a bit straighter, nodding. Nezu wants to meet and discuss possible enrollment into UA. Now, I think that's an horrible idea because you don't need another human force of I don't need another human force of nature. But I think it's the best for you, kid. What? A UA student? Shota shook his head. Not fully. Nezu wants to train you to be a licensed quirk analyst, officially. So you'll probably be taken to general education courses with the students, but you'll be taking the major stuff with him. It's one option you could have. You can also sit out for the entrance exams. The written ones, you could go to the general education or business course if you want. Izuku could tell that Shota really didn't want him to become Nezu's student. Plurally, to keep him becoming a human force of nature, which seemed to be a weird concern to have, though Izuku giggled softly to himself. I want to try and be Nezu-san's student. I don't know if I'm smart enough, but I'll try. Izuku, you're brilliant, and don't doubt that, okay? Shota nodded to his police partner. So, is that a yes? Do we agree to those terms? Izuku nodded at both of them and signed a quick yes to Shota. Good. Sakashi handed some forms over to Shota and delivered a little grin. Shota growled with an eye roll. Get these back to me by tomorrow, and I'll give Nezu a call. I'm sure he can push them through pretty fast. Hmm. The tired hero mumbled. Izuku wasn't sure what paperwork they were talking about, but maybe it was guardianship stuff. A police officer with a full cat head knocked at the door and poked his head around. Izuku was busy marveling at the mutant quirk and failed to hear the short conversation around him. Sir, Sir, President Mike is here for a racer. Send him in, Sana. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. While Izuku's brain rebooted, Shota picked him up and placed him back on his own chair. Wait, did that officer mention President Mike? Shota should have said his name earlier. Mike. When he was speaking in the hallway. Why was President Mike here? Izuku turned a questionable glance toward Shota, and the tired hero just smirked. Oh, he was hiding something. Izuku could tell. Hey, little listener. Hey, listeners. President Mike's loud voice burst into the room, nearly knocking Izuku off his chair he was sitting on. Mike, stop scaring Izuku. Oh, sorry, little listener. How are you doing? Izuku tilted his head a little. He knew President Mike's hero persona, but this man was wearing checkered pajama pants, a giant hoodie, and his hair was down to his shoulders. Is that really President Mike? That's my husband, Shota. Izuku. That's my husband, Shota answered with a grin. He also speaks sign. He's the only reason why I know sign language. Izuku's eyes brightened as he turned back to find the hero smiling, with his hands tucked into his pockets casually. Yup, but you can call me Hizashi, okay? That recollection to the name was immediate. Izuku's whole body curled up on himself. You aren't to be seen or heard, or better neither. Get back here, boy. Come out now, or I'll make it 10 times worse. Izuku whimpered, fingers digging down lightly into the fabric of his mask. He hadn't heard his father's name in years, except in his farthest reaches of his own mind, the loudest voice, the most painful one. Izuku didn't want to hear it anymore. He didn't want it. He didn't want to be invisible. He didn't want to be ignored anymore. A hand reached over to his shoulder, and Izuku cried out, shoving himself away onto the floor. He needed an escape. He needed somewhere to hide, somewhere. There was nothing. Someone was blocking the door. There was nowhere to hide. He whimpered again. Hey, Izuku, stop. Take a deep breath. It's me, Shota. Can you hear me? Izuku didn't realize the grasp. He was gasping for air until Shota told him to breathe. His eyes snapped back to the dark-haired hero in front of him, forcing himself to nod. Yes, he could hear Shota. What happened? Where'd you go? Izuku wasn't even sure how to answer that, since he was the since he saw until he saw the worried face beneath Shota. Sakashi looked like he wanted to reach out for help, but was forcing himself to not to. President Mike was about to jump in, but Izuku winced a little bit, remembering his name. What? Whose name? Mike's. Shota was careful not to touch Izuku where most with a grip of the shoulder. Just to keep him grounded, most likely. It's similar to my father's. Hisashi. Both Shota's and Mike's eyes widened. Mike looked away in anger or in grief. Izuku couldn't tell. It was one of the two. It panicked him. I'm sorry. I'll get over it. Please don't be mad. I didn't mean to react that way. I know it's not your name, but it's just so similar and whoa, Izuku, stop, calm down. His Mike isn't mad at you for your reaction to his name. He's right, little listener. I'm not mad at you. Never at you. I'm angry because somebody hurt you so badly. Even hearing her name makes you upset. How about this? You can call me Mike, okay? Or you can call me Yamada. That's my last name. Or whatever's easiest to you. Izuku took a few steadying breaths and nodded, trying to force a smile back beneath his mask. Eventually it came. Eventually he pushed up the fears and panic back into the corners of his mind, and excitement filled him. President Mike and Eraserhead were going to take him home. Wow. So, wow. So they did. He wasn't sure he believed they would let him stay. Probably not forever. Besides, Shota said it was until they found somewhere where he could stay. Do you have anything Do you have anything to pick up before we head home? Home. Izuku wished he could stay with them for more than just a few days. He was so tired of feeling listless and adrift. Izuku nodded. Okay, little listener, let's head out, okay? Sakashi bowed his head at the two heroes, led Izuku out of the interview room, but he interrupted at the last minute. Remember, Izuku, no ability to Julian tea anymore. It was not a threat, but it was just a gentle warning. Izuku nodded and gave Sakashi a thumbs up. To be honest, Izuku wasn't actually sure if he'd be able to hold that up at first. If these two heroes failed him, he'd likely end up back on his own. Probably just go back to what he was doing before. But there was still some deep longing for his soul to go back to the normal life he saw in movies. A loving family, school where the kids didn't tell you to kill yourself every day, a chance at a real career, and happiness, so much happiness. He longed for the day so deeply. Izuku looked up at the two heroes chatting quietly as they walked to Yamada's car. Maybe they could be what he needed. Neither Shota nor Yamada commented on his tiny apartment when they gone to pick up Izuku's meaning mere belongings. Izuku had left a note at the office explaining his departure. All he had in the end was a duffel bag of clothes, his laptop bag with his laptop and his notebooks. He would normally grab his gear bag as well, but most of special gear was with May for upgrades. May. Izuku fumbled with his phone, struggling to get it out while he was in the seatbelt of the car, quickly, not even caring that he was in a car with his new guardians. He video called May. Izuku! Izuku! She barked over the phone. Both heroes jumped and looked over to see what he was doing. May, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you something really important. Whoa, slow down. It's okay. What did you forget? Eraserhead and I got into a huge argument on the roof. I broke down, and then he took me in. He's taking me in. Eraserhead and Present Mike are going to be my guardians for a while. I'm going to see Nezu, and he's going to take me in as one of his students for quirk studies. Izuku, that's amazing. We could end up in UA then, together then, right? Did I tell you that I got into support course today? I'm so excited. I can make all these babies. I just want to start my own business, and I'll have you on my side, right, Sue? Of course, May. Izuku smiled brightly under his mask. He knew May would see the smile in the way his eyes crinkled. She was an expert at reading faces his face after all these years. Congratulations, Izuku. You deserve to be a happy family. Don't be a stranger. To have a happy family. Don't be a stranger, okay? If you need any more gear, just let me know. How? You can have your dads come to me for gear too. Izuku spurt up a little bit when May called them his dads. That was far from what they were right now. Izuku didn't want to assume anything, especially not that they wanted to keep a quirkless Deku like him. She hung up before he could realize Izuku sighed and tucked his phone away. Is that your inventor friend? Yes, May. She's brilliant, but crazy. All of her quote-unquote babies, as she calls them, have at least 40% chance of exploding. Shota thought it this one more over and glanced at Yamada beside him. Like, all of them? Like, even your bat? Izuku chuckled a little bit to himself. Well, it doesn't have an electronic function. Well, it does. It doesn't have an electronic function, and it does have an electro function and retractable spikes too. I think May added something special to in the new model too. That's concerning, Mike mumbled, mostly to himself. Just chuckled to himself to keep an eye on the road. Izuku wasn't exactly sure what to make of it. Okay, that was that chapter. So, have a wonderful day.